And I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We know that this is a very challenging time during this pandemic, especially for many people who have not only lost their income, but have had their hours reduced at their various employment sites and also lost their jobs completely. As of today, we've had over 83,000 people in San Francisco apply for unemployment. And what that says is, even though we locally are doing everything we can to provide resources to the public, we know there's so much more that needs to be done. We can't wait for a federal stimulus check. In many cases, people who are living paycheck to paycheck and need money to pay their bills. And we know, especially our hairdressers, our nail salons, people, our barbershops, they are probably suffering the most, because if they don't work, they don't have any income. So this is a very challenging time for all of us. And as we deal with protecting public health, we also need to protect the financial health of our families and our communities, so that after we are able to reopen, what is that going to look like? And how are we going to be able to continue to make sure that everyone has a decent paying job with benefits? That's the foundation of our city, and it's necessary for us to figure out ways in which we can help support one another and uplift one another. Just a few things we've been doing here in San Francisco include providing additional sick leave for private sector employees, and also making available funding that employers have paid into our fund that establishes support for healthcare benefits, and we're able to give that back to the employees to use for important things like rent or food, finding creative solutions through Give to SF, where we are using those resources to help pay for food for low-income families and undocumented families who we know may not qualify for other benefits that are available, making sure that people who are very concerned and will not be able to generate revenue, that they're able to get some resources and some relief to help pay rent for their ability to stay housed. Our small business community is the foundation of our city. And we know that sadly, what's happening now, people are impacted financially, but we know that there's going to be a real challenge in the future. And it's important that we make smart decisions, that we make investment in the people who work so hard for our city, so that they are able to get over this very challenging time, and are able to emerge from this in a way that moves our city forward. So today, what we wanted to do was take this opportunity to have a webinar specifically for workers, because even though we have made a lot of announcements here in San Francisco about various programs that are available, it can get quite confusing, because there are local programs, there are state programs, there are challenges with unemployment and other things. And we wanted to provide this as an opportunity to reach directly out to workers and to talk to the community about ways in which we want to be as helpful as we possibly can, and also to solicit feedback. Because we may not have all the answers. We may not know exactly what's going on in every sector of every part of this city. And we want to be a resource and make sure that we're investing the dollars in the right programs that are going to directly impact people's lives. And so today, I'm joined by a number of folks here who are here to serve employees of San Francisco. The workforce director, Josh Arce, works for our Office of Economic and Workforce Development. And for more information about what we're doing, and if you have any other questions or concerns, not only can you call Josh directly and he will answer your call, but you can go to oewd.org, or you can call 311, and he is available. He is very dedicated to helping workers and to helping people find job opportunities. And so that's one of his roles here with the city, and we're so grateful for his commitment and service to the city. We are also joined by Rudy Gonzales, who's the executive director for the San Francisco Labor Council. And as you know, the San Francisco Labor Council represents all organized labor here in San Francisco, but they don't just fight for the groups that are part of their collaborative. They fight for better wages. They fight for better benefits so that people have can live with dignity and can take care of their families. And so San Francisco is a strong union town. I have a union family that I am blessed to be a part of, and we know that organized labor in San Francisco is critical to the safety net of many of our low-wage workers and the people who make San Francisco strong. And we're also, I want to thank you, Michelle, who has agreed, Michelle Leonard Bell, who is a part of Mission Hiring Hall, who has agreed to moderate this conversation. Mission Hiring Hall has been my go-to for employment opportunities since, I mean, it's been over, they've been around longer than this, but it's been over 20 years. When I have someone who is struggling and needs an employment opportunity, to call Mission Hiring Hall, they provide the wraparound supported services and training necessary to get people on their feet and back to work. And so we're glad to have an incredible network of people who are here to help guide this conversation, help us answer some questions. And the goal is to make sure that we are connecting our resources to the people that we know need it the most. That is why we're here, and we want to thank you all for joining us. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Josh Arce, the Director of Workforce Development for the city.
Thank you, Mayor Breed, and thank you for your leadership. Thank you for convening us here and for everything you're doing for workers. I just want to say at our department, under the leadership of our Director, Joaquin Torres, we're a team of 54 men and women who are committed, working with, at this point, 48 different community-based organizations to support workers out there at this time and prepare for our recovery. So as you said, we can emerge from this even stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. And so, Rudy, I want to turn it over to you. As I said, Rudy Gonzales is the Executive Director of the San Francisco Labor Council here in the city. And also, I want to mention our Economic Recovery Task Force, because not only do we need to help workers now, what happens in the future when we start to reopen the city. He's one of the co-chairs helping to lead that charge on San Francisco's economic recovery. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rudy Gonzales.
Thank you, Mayor Breed, Director Arce. Michelle, it's good to be in your company. We're grateful for the opportunity to be part of this discussion, bringing together not only organized labor, but like you said, Mayor, really trying to find ways to lift up all people. So we're happy to be part of this collaborative and get to work on our recovery right now.
Great, thank you. All right, Michelle, I guess I can turn it over to you so we can get started. We know we probably have a lot of folks on the line who have a number of questions, and that's what we're here to do, answer the questions, and also to take feedback on just suggestions that people who are in the middle of these experiences might have. So I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Thank you. As the mayor said, my name is Michelle Leonard Bell, and I am the General Manager of Mission Hiring Hall. We've been putting people in San Francisco to work into quality employment since 1971. So we're going to get started here. Mayor, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We believe lives here in the city and the region around the city have been saved because of your decisive action and your administration's work. Thank you to all the participants who sent in questions. We received many, many questions around workforce, and what we're going to try to do is select the questions that were asked more than once, and also to reflect the diversity of the things that you would like to know. Our first question was one that was very common, and I'll share this one with Mayor Breed and then with Josh. So many people are frustrated with the challenges of applying for unemployment. What is the latest status on the state and federal unemployment resources? Mayor Breed?
Well, I'll turn this over to Josh because he has a lot more details, but you know, again, we've had 83,000 people in San Francisco alone, and over 2.5 million in the state of California, people who applied for unemployment. I know that the governor's office is working to increase the capacity in order to try and be as responsive as possible to people, because we know that people need their money now. We don't have direct local control over unemployment insurance in general, but we are definitely partnering and working with the state to try to be as aggressive as we can to get unemployment in the hands of people right away. It has definitely been a challenge, and I'll turn it over to Josh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Reed. And we work very closely with the state employment Development Department, or EDD, and they have an unprecedented level of need. In the first week of March, it was only 50,000 Californians that applied for unemployment, and 3 million ever since. And as the mayor said, more than 83,000 just in the city and county. So as the governor and Labor Secretary Julie Su increased staffing to the unemployment phone lines and emails, what we've been doing is we've been running a hotline. We've been working closely with EDD, with the Human Services Agency, community partners, including Self-Help for the Elderly, as well as Mission Economic Development Agency, and a whole lot of our staff to answer phones. Our team takes calls 7 days a week in multiple languages, and it's really around whatever support's needed during COVID-19. And of course, most of the calls are around unemployment. Many of our community partners are doing the same. So in nearly 2,000 calls that have been received to date since March 16th shelter-in-place order, lots of unemployment questions, independent contractor questions. And what we do is we gather information from those callers, and EDD staff actually works directly with us. We're grateful for that, to get answers, call folks back, and email them with those updates. We also do twice a week rapid response virtual online webinars to get a group of folks, workers that have been laid off, in a room to share those resources with the state, with the Labor Council, with Covered California. And that's about an hour-long process, so we do twice a week. I think, as the mayor said, just we're here for you. We want to stay connected. Our website is www.oewd.org. The phone number itself is 415-701-4817, 701-4817. But really go to our website, oewd.org, and that's really a great way to get that number and all the resources we're going to talk about today. Thank you again, Mayor Rhee.
Thank you, Mayor and Josh. I can say of the nearly 350 calls that Mission Hiring Call placed to folks that they'd recently provided services to, unemployment questions were the main questions answered. So thank you for this. Again, folks, oewd.org. You can get assistance around unemployment. Our next question here is for Rudy. Rudy, before people go back to work, they are understandably concerned about the safety and ensuring the safety for themselves and their families. Will the city be providing guidelines and giving back to the office and going back to the office to help ensure people are safe when they return to work?
Thank you for that question, Michelle. The short answer is yes. The Department of Public Health and the County Health Officer have been working diligently to provide clarification and guidance where we've needed it. I think a good example of this came through the City Administrator's Office and the Mayor's administration with respect to industries in the construction sector. So yes, the city is providing that guidance. It's something that is a top priority for the Economic Recovery Task Force in our effort to support not only jobs and businesses and small businesses. We also want to support workers by collaborating around what those safe protocols are. They're going to look and feel a little different in various industries, but we trust that the Department of Public Health is going to provide us, timely guidance on those things. And I think it's also important to recognize that this situation is fluid, and so we have to be dynamic in how we respond to these concerns. This is an area that I'm particularly interested in developing feedback through the Recovery Task Force, their community engagement team. I'm very interested to hear what some of the specific needs will be from some of our small and medium-sized businesses along these lines. But yes, we'll continue to work with city partners and industry partners to develop clear guidance that allows people to get back to regular work, to continue the essential work, and to do so in a way that promotes public health.
Thank you for that, Rudy. Our next question is for Mayor Breed. Will more people be eligible for testing as more people return to work, Mayor Breed?
Oh, definitely. The only way we're going to be able to get back to life as we knew it in some capacity is to ensure that testing is available to people. And the good news is we announced that all essential workers for the city or even in the private sector, if you are considered an essential worker, whether you exhibit symptoms or not, you can be tested. So please reach out to us. You can go on to sf.org/citytestsf or call 311 if you would like to be tested and you're an essential worker. But the other thing is we will test anyone who exhibits symptoms, whether you have insurance or not. And I think that's important because we never want testing to be a barrier. If you are not an essential worker or just a San Franciscan or anyone from, our immigrant community or anyone, you don't have to have insurance to get tested. If you are exhibiting at least one symptom, we will test you. So you can go online or you can call 311 and we will get you tested. So I think the good news is we expanded our testing capacity. So we're able to provide the opportunities more than we've ever had before. So there's no reason why anyone in San Francisco can't get tested right now if they need to, if they exhibit at least one symptom of COVID-19. And I also want to be clear that our essential workers can get tested in general. So what we want to be able to do is we want to expand that even further, because ultimately the goal is to make sure as people get back to work, we have testing capacity to get people tested in general, because even if I get tested today, it's negative, well, I'm around people tomorrow, the possibility of me getting the virus is possible still. So it doesn't just go away because of a test, but we have to make sure testing is readily available at any given time for anyone. So I'm really excited about our testing capacity. So again, no reason that anyone can't get tested who exhibits symptoms or are essential workers for any reason.
Thank you so much for that, Mayor. One more follow-up question as well. With schools remaining closed through the rest of this academic year, will more childcare services be available as more people return to work?
Yeah, and I believe so for sure. The good news is we're offering childcare for essential workers right now in our healthcare industry and our public safety industries. And our goal is to not only expand that as we have space available, but it also is to expand it as we have more testing. And so right now we're having conversations with our public health department about what does this mean for summer camps? What does this mean for things that we want to be available to kids, but we also want to not only protect the children that we want to have these opportunities, we want to make sure that the workforce and their parents and others have access to this testing. Testing, contact tracing, those sorts of things are going to be key when we start to allow various industries to reopen in San Francisco, along with the guidelines, just like what we're doing with construction, just like what we're doing right now with outdoor services, like a number of flower shops and nurseries and kiosks and outdoor businesses, setting guidelines in place, allowing those industries to open. We want to do that with more industries, but that happens as we have also more testing capacities, which we are seeing occur, and I'm really excited about that for the future.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Director Josh Arce, would you like to add anything?
I thought, Mayor Breed, maybe this might be a good place for us just to say to any students or parents that might be watching that you can apply for the Mayor's Opportunities for All Summer Internship Program, which is preparing to launch again in June, and taking applications for online internships through the Human Rights Commission. Mayor Breed, should we share that link maybe with everybody?
I hope you know the link, because
hot off the press from Director Davis. It's okay. www.ops4allsf. That's ops, OPPS, the number 4, then ALLSF.org. And I believe we're going to have all these links posted at the end of the video, Mayor Reed.
And then also, I think it's, if you have questions and there's a lot of information overload, you can always call 311.
Definitely. Thank you, Mayor Breed. We had several questions around skills and training programs, which are going to be essential to getting folks back to work who have lost positions in this crisis. Let's start with this question with Rudy and then Josh. How are we preparing people who have lost their jobs for employment opportunities when the city reopens and it's going to be such a tight market?
Thank you for that question. The first thing we're doing is identifying where the greatest needs are. And in some industries, the road will be longer to recovery. So it's important that we get into those workplaces and identify who needs reskilling or upskilling and different forms of training. I think that it's important to note that some of the existing models, the city's worked very closely with organized labor and our public education institutions like City College and departments like Josh's and City Build provide a good framework for us to start modeling this training. In fact, just recently, Director Arce and I were part of a collaboration where the city was able to directly address some workers at Moscone Center that will have a longer road to recovery in the convention and trade show sector. They were able to access funds through the state of California and set up a collaborative model where we'll be partnering with a high road union apprenticeship training to help hundreds of workers at Moscone transition into viable career paths in the construction industry. So I think unique to this recession is we are going to have certain sectors of the economy continue. Some will even thrive, and it's going to be up to us to collaborate to make sure that we deliver those training programs directly to the workers who need it. I'm particularly excited about this opportunity at Moscone because I think it shows a great partnership between not only the city and organized labor who have these training programs already set up, but it also highlights the importance of San Francisco's role with respect to the governor's administration and the EDD. Without those partnerships, these kind of models wouldn't be possible. So we're really excited to think through how do we provide some of those skills in a new virtual setting, and how do we model them so that they can be rolled out at scale. While some workers are just kind of waiting for the next round of orders to come out, we know others will face a much tougher road and will have a longer ways to go. And so we want to get into that segment of the workforce in many industries so that we can provide not just new skills or certifications, but real career paths so that people can recover in their own family life.
And thanks, Michelle. This is a good example that Rudy mentions because Mayor Breed has really, in so many ways, primed the workforce system for this moment. And I think back to not much more than a year ago when the chariot drivers lost their jobs and Mayor Breed immediately convened our office, MTA, Teamsters Union, along with FACES, SF, and Mission Hiring Hall to meet these workers who had been driving private shuttles and train them through her new program, City Drive, to become Muni bus operators and commercial drivers. So when we caught the call from Rudy, it's a logical next step to have that coordination, connect with the State Workforce Development Board, connect with EDD, and to really think of options here. It's only at the end of last week that we, I think 10 days ago is when we started the conversation, and just at the end of last week, as Rudy said, the state EDD announced to us and shared with us they're awarding $1 million to train several hundred of those men and women to become union construction apprentices through City Build. And so that kind of work with labor community partners to think of new training programs is something that I know we're focused on every day. Nonprofit service provider partners are out there. Most community partners that we support are still operating virtually. Neighborhood job centers, I've mentioned some already, as well as Success Center in the Fillmore, Young Community Developers in Baby Hunters Point, Hospitality House in the Tenderloin, Inner City Youth in the OMI. You can connect to these great organizations through oewd.org. Goodwill operates citywide, and they're working with Human Services Agency right now to hire on-site monitors at $24 an hour each, which is a great opportunity. Our hospitality initiative is working with One Fair Wage in the state of California to support high road kitchens and working to support restaurant workers in partnership with our Human Services Agency. Cannabis industry is hiring and they really need our help. But again, it's just about, most importantly, that we're connected, and our website is oewd.org. As Mayor Breed said, you can call me, call any of us. We're just here to support you and stay connected as we've been charged by our mayor.
Yes, thank you so much. Another thing I'd like to add is during this time, if you felt that you were underemployed or you were just existing in employment, this could actually be a perfect storm for you. And when we say underemployed, we mean if you were working full-time and a partner in your household were working full-time and you were not making ends meet with the employment that you were in, this could be a great time for you to go to oewd.org, check out the trainings. Most of these trainings are not over 18 weeks. weeks, and it will land you into quality employment. Next question I'll ask of Josh Arce. Given the changing landscape of work, what sorts of retraining, re-educating programs is the city developing to equip people for jobs?
Thanks, Michelle. Mayor Breed has spoken of the need for us to adapt our workforce to the new normal. And the fact is that we get notices from employers laying off workers. And since March 1st, we've received nearly 300 of such notices of companies laying off employees in San Francisco, and that impacts more than 33,000 workers out there. Nearly half of these companies are in the accommodation and food service industry. So we know that these are areas where we need to focus, and we've talked about some of those ideas, and we look forward to connecting with our partners to do even more of that. Healthcare and tech are still hiring, and we think those are going to be key industries that we'll hear through the Economic Recovery Task Force where we see opportunities. Healthcare Academy partners are signing up job seekers. Tech SF is still taking applications to train in the tech industry, and there's free trainings thanks to LinkedIn Learning and Zendesk where you can certify for free in their platform, which opens up more opportunities for you in recovery. Opportunities for All that we mentioned is a really important way, as Mayor Breed has said, to plant seeds for our young people, both in any ordinary economy, certainly post-COVID. Apprenticeship, not just in construction, but in tech, healthcare, commercial driving, even cannabis, we expect to be an important key to our workforce strategy during recovery. And again, our community partners are out there doing the work to support you. We have received an additional $675,000 from the state EDD for general supportive services to support workers that are laid off to be able to do these kind of trainings. And that's something that you can learn more about, again, to upskill, to reskill, and to really prepare for this through our website, oewd.org.
Thank you, Josh, for that. Also, if you go to missionhiringcall.org, you can access City Build. You can access applying for City Build at that website. You can also apply for the Construction Administration and Training and Professional Services Academy. This is an answer for folks who do not wish to put on a tool belt. You can work inside construction companies. Both of these trainings are just 18 weeks. We also offer security guard training free of charge, and we also offer placement into hospitality positions. The next question we have here is about the impact to our most vulnerable workers. I'll ask this one of everyone, starting with Mayor Breed, and then Josh, and then Rudy. How is the city helping workers in sectors like arts, nonprofits, and other fields where workers may have already been struggling before the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, I'll tell you the one thing we've been able to do, fortunately, with not just our city workers, but with many of the nonprofit workers that the city has contracts with, we've been able to honor our commitment to those contracts, which have allowed us to continue to pay many of our nonprofit providers. And so that has been incredible. We have not had to stop funding, even though our city faces a $1.1 to $1.7 billion budget deficit. We actually repurposed, I think, I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was around $2 million or so for arts support to give to arts organizations and to give to artists, because, you know, these musicians and people who this is their livelihood, and they don't have the ability to get by. If you, for example, play live music once a week and that's how you make ends meet, and now you're not playing live music anywhere anymore, these artists are suffering. There's a number of arts organizations that are suffering. So we repurpose some of our dollars and of grant monies that were not directly committed. And we are digging deep to find more to support artists and people in our arts community. And in fact, Give to SF, which they may qualify for. Give to SF, we started to partner with private dollars and public dollars for food security, for housing, and for small businesses. And we have worked with many nonprofits to try and distribute the resources available to get the money in the hands of people right away through some of these particular programs. But it continues to be a challenge because we have had money that we put into these pots, and it runs out quickly. And we have, of course, wait lists of people who need resources, which is why I'm constantly not only raising money, but trying to scrap up city money in order to combine those resources to provide that to people that we know are already struggling. And so we'll continue to do that.
Thank you so much, Mayor Breed. These are all great resources. Keep in mind that the small, the community-based organizations all over the city are working hard, and they're ready to go to work as soon as we unshelter to help you access every one of these services and trainings that we've talked about here today.
Well, a lot of the nonprofits, just so you know, are still working. They're still helping us in various capacity. Definitely the ones who are managing our shelters and the people who work with our homeless population. They have not stopped working. They are putting themselves in harm's way in order to take care of people on a regular basis. So there's some organizations, even before the pandemic really hit our city, they were out doing the work around outreach and educating people about what the coronavirus is and some of the recommendations of things to do or not to do and who to call for resources. So our relationships with our nonprofits have been really important in not only communicating, but distributing the resources that we have through Give to SF. We are working with organizations to identify the people who are most in need to distribute those resources to. So we appreciate that, and we're hopeful that we can maintain it, but we are looking at a very challenging future for this city with our anticipated budget deficit.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. We have time for one last question, and it's about economic recovery. I'd like to go around to all of the panelists, starting with Mayor Breed. How can we ensure, as the city begins its recovery, that every San Franciscan has a fair chance to succeed in this new normal?
How can what? I'm sorry?
How can we ensure that that San Franciscan has a fair chance to succeed in this new normal?
Well, unfortunately, that's going to be very challenging. It's going to be very challenging, sadly, because of our deficit, because of what's happening with our economy. And it doesn't mean that we don't try to come together to figure out ways in which we can really focus on making sure that exactly what Josh and what Rudy talked about is looking at people in various industries and making sure that if their industry is going under or those job opportunities are no longer available, then how do we help them to shift what they're doing? And that's going to be really important. That's how we're going to be able to ensure support for our city workforce. It's going to be tough. There are no conventions planned in the near future. Tourism is going to continue to be very challenging. And so when you think about it, the people who work at the convention centers, the people who work at the hotels, the folks who work at restaurants, where we're going to need to make changes to the restaurant industry, a lot of folks are going to suffer. And what we have to be prepared to do, exactly what Josh talked about when the Chariot drivers lost their job. Well, if they could drive one of those big vans for Chariot, they can drive munis. So what a great, and they get paid more. So I think that's a lot of what we're going to be doing is helping to make it easier for people to shift whatever industry they might be working in and making sure that the programs match what is available. So for example, we're not going to be out of the woods on coronavirus for some time until there's a vaccine. And contact tracing along with testing will be a critical part in trying to help to keep people safe. Well, we need thousands of people to do contact tracing. So training people and getting them equipped with what that entails could be a stepping stone to another opportunity, but it's the kinds of things that we're going to need to do in order to try and support everyone. It will be challenging, but we are committed to this, and that's why I have a lot of confidence in the Economic Recovery Task Force with a number of people from labor, people from the academic world, folks from city departments, folks from nonprofits, from the community, from arts community. Like the goal is to come up with the right plan of action for people in various industries so that we make it less challenging on people than I'm sure it already is. And that's what we're committed to.
Thank you, Mayor. Josh, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you again, Mayor Breed, and to the panel, because a few of the ideas that we talked about here and that we've heard in the questions are some cues, I think, for what we think about in recovery. 10 years ago, we had federal stimulus dollars, economic stimulus resources that we may see again. I know we're all advocating for under the mayor's leadership, to our speaker, to our governor, to make the case for any resources we can. The mayor's perfect example, Workers and Family First Paid Sick Leave Fund, was a partnership between our office and Human Services Agency. And with the $10 million fund, we saw applications to support nearly 21,000 different workers, giving us a framework to think about if we can have those stimulus dollars again to implement that program. As jobs now still exist, could be built out again. Supporting our immigrant workers and families, the Give to SF dollars that Mayor Breed has helped to secure that will soon deploy to those workers who may not be eligible for any other form of relief because of immigration status, working with partners such as the Human Rights Commission, Latino Task Force, API Council, Labor Council, and others, are some of the ways to do what Mayor Breed charged with us even before this started, which is to leave no one behind. We were just starting a collaborative right before this started under the coordination of Hospitality House and Joe Wilson and his team, Tiffany Jackson, with homeless advocates and workers, advocates of formerly homeless job seekers, to really create a new system, a multi-departmental system working with the community, that we've got to return to that too. 10 years ago, it was programs like this. It was also policies. Our local hiring policy for construction started 10 years ago, and ideas that we can obviously catalyze a return to the economic prosperity that we will have once again. But using these policies to truly make sure no one is left behind, because by the end of that moment of prosperity, we saw disparities such as unemployment within the African American community disproportionately low compared to everyone else in the city. And many of our workers of color, women, limited English speakers, public housing residents, who are not able to share in that income and in that wealth as we rebuild. And it's going to be tough, as the mayor said, but as we rebuild, we've got all the right partners here, from community, labor, the businesses, mayor, supervisors, the agencies, everyone who's coming together to do this through the task force, to do these kind of policies, come together, and we'll look forward to that hard work to get us back.
Thank you so much for that, Josh. Rudy, would you like to chime in with a closing statement on recovery?
Sure, thanks, Michelle. In terms of the Economic Recovery Task Force, I think the frame here is that we have to be deliberate. So if we're going to talk about a recovery that serves everybody and provides opportunity, we're going to have to actually focus energy on that question. In the Recovery Task Force framework, there are kind of three areas or three work areas around jobs and business, and there's a work group dedicated to that. Economic development, a work group dedicated to that, and I'm very proud that there's a vulnerable populations work group to think about these questions and these issues through an equity lens, right? And to think about how do we lift people up. I don't think it will happen on accident or by chance. It's going to happen because of political leaders, of community leaders, and overall a level of engagement that brings everybody into the conversation. I want to say that I think it also counts on some of the outcomes we're seeing at the federal level. I'm very proud that our national AFL-CIO is mobilizing our 12.5 million members to lobby and to push to make sure that local government gets taken care of in the next stimulus package. All of the extraordinary efforts, from PPE to testing to making sure that nonprofits and vulnerable community groups are being taken care of at the city level, requires that the federal level of our government recognize that and then provide resources, funding, money. So we're fighting for that very hard as an organized movement. I also want to say that I think our local government will play a key role in defining what recovery feels like for all people. Our local government really has an opportunity, not only as the representatives of the people, but as the largest employer in San Francisco, we'll have an opportunity to speak our values in this recovery. And I think it starts with healthcare. And I know the city has been a leader on that. The mayor's been working diligently, as she said, with the HCAO money. There are policies that we can look to really make sure that everybody recovers in San Francisco. So we're excited and we're ready to get to work in the Economic Recovery Task Force. And thanks again for the opportunity to participate in this panel.
Thank you, Rudy. And thank you to all who participated in this today. Mayor Breed, thank you for having us. One last thought on recovery. As we go back to work, as everyone else joins the others that are now working, let's keep in mind our safety. This isn't the time to skim over emails from our employer advising us of new policies and procedures. We've got to keep safety at paramount and at the utmost thoughts of in our minds while we go back to work, because we've got to keep each other safe and we've got to keep our families safe. And as the mayor said, we're not through this yet, but we've got to keep working together. Thank you, Mayor Breed. I turn this back over to you.
Thank you. And let me just say, Michelle, I know you have a lot of questions and I want to make sure we're able to answer them. So feel free to turn them over to Josh and, and he'll follow up. We want to be a resource to people. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to us. The website is oewd.org. Call 311. And we understand that it is probably frustrating to go through this process of applying for unemployment on your own and needing to print out documents and not getting a response. Even though we don't have direct control over this particular state agency, we want to be helpful. So, for example, if you're struggling with unemployment and you're still waiting for a check, and if we have a resource where we could provide some support or some assistance for food or something of that nature, we don't want you to have to wait for unemployment to get help. If there's something that's available with our city, we want to be able to help as much as we possibly can. And so we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We'll continue to do everything we can to support our workforce as we go through the challenges of our budget, keeping people employed and making sure people have employment options is really so important to taking care of the people of this city and also our economic recovery health that is so desperately needed. So I'm counting on all of us to do our parts in providing information as well as getting information and making the decisions based on what's best for the people that we're here to serve. So really appreciate all of you and all the work that you are all doing on the front line. We really are in this together, and I want to see us emerge as a stronger, better city for our workforce more than ever as a result of this unexpected pandemic. And I think by working together, we will. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all.